Oh, there's no place like the White House for the holidays. For no matter which first family sets the tone, every guest will feel the warmth and love of Christmas time. For the White House is the people's home, sweet home.
It was 1789, and George Washington had just...
Jen, you can't use George Washington.
Well, I know what you're going to say, Elizabeth, but we can't skip George. He's the father of our country. He was the first president of the United States.
Okay, Jen, you know he was president from 1789 to 1797, and the White House wasn't built until 1800.
True. Okay, I've got an idea. We'll call the show Christmas at the White House, except for George Washington, who celebrated Christmas at Mount Vernon, which is just a few miles down the road from the White House, and is in fact a White House.
Okay, that works for me, so carry on.
Well, the number 8 is really important when talking about George Washington. He was president for 8 years.
Oh, and he was head of the Revolutionary Army for 8 years. And you know, that's a long time. I wonder what Martha thought of his being away from home that long. And then he became president after he told everybody he wouldn't.
I'll tell you exactly how I felt, my dear. My George was a man who loved to do his duty, a man who loved freedom and democracy. And so when Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson told him that the new 13 states, which he had just spent 8 years of his and my life freeing from England, were now squabbling like children, big states against small states, farmers against industrialists. Well, the new United States needed for George to be president, so he did just that. Oh, but let's get back to Christmas, shall we? Do you know the Christmas that George and I loved the most and reminisced about the most often was the Christmas of 1783.
That was right after the war, and George was in New York, and you were at Mount Vernon in Virginia. And he couldn't just jump on a plane or get in a train. There weren't any. So how did George get home for Christmas that year?
On horseback, of course. And it was already November, and every night he was tired as a dog and cold and hungry. Oh, my dear, but here was the biggest holdup.
My dearest Martha, I still plan to resign my commission on December 23rd in order to be with you, my darling, at Mount Vernon for Christmas Eve. But I am constantly delayed. Crowds greet me at every crossroads and village. And even though I should not, I do begrudge the time I spend with them.
Oh, but I know him well enough to know that he did not begrudge the time he spent dancing at the balls in Philadelphia and Annapolis. Do you know the man paid for his own dance lessons when he was only 14? And he never left a ball early, I can assure you. Oh, and he did advise me how to dress my hair for Christmas. 13 curls. The latest rage in hairstyle in the new 13 states of America. We'll keep reading, my dear.
Dear girl, I have almost emptied the toy shops here in Philadelphia. Per your instructions, each of the 4 grandchildren will have a very Merry Christmas. I got myself a new pair of spectacles. Do you think the Congress will be insulted when I tell them I have grown gray in service to my country, and now I'm growing blind as well?
Well, finally on Christmas Eve, George arrived. Everyone was talking at once, and, well, all I could do was hold on to his hand. This was our 24th wedding anniversary, and I never loved him any more than at that moment. And the next morning, I awoke to gunfire.
Don't worry, my darling. It's just Jason welcoming Christmas morning. And the children have been waiting in the hallway to light the Yule log. Don't the servants love that tradition, too? They don't have to do a lick of work until that log is all burned up.
Oh, and as soon as that log was lit, well, George was out the door to go hunting with friends, and he didn't get back home until late in the afternoon. Oh, just in time to watch the children open their gifts. And then we all sat down to dinner, and our neighbor proposed a toast. To Private Citizen George Washington, the soul of the Revolution. And then after dinner, the music began.
God save the king.
No. God Save the King will never be played in this house again. Let's have a lively minuet, shall we?
The first president to actually celebrate Christmas in the White House was John Adams. He and his wife Abigail celebrated with a huge Christmas party in 1800.
Unfortunately, the White House wasn't completed yet. And so Abigail used up 20 cords of wood. That's a lot of wood, trying to keep her guests warm. And I'm sure she heard a lot of,
"Sorry we can't stay longer, but we have another housewarming party to go to."
Now, you might have noticed that we haven't talked about Christmas trees or Christmas carols or Santa Claus. That's because they hadn't been created yet or weren't yet part of the tradition.
By the time Abraham Lincoln took office in 1861, Christmas was then a legal holiday. Wreaths were hung on doors, Christmas trees were decorated, gifts exchanged, Santa Claus was very popular, and the Civil War was going on.
But the Lincolns had two young sons who loved Christmas and who made Christmas at the White House very special. Tad and Willie would often say, Oh, Father, let's go to the Stunts toy store. And off the three of them would go and stand mesmerized in front of the windows filled with toys. That first Christmas in the White House would be the last one the family had together, because Willie died the following February. The grieving Lincoln shared with a friend at that following Christmas, "I want to give Tad all the toys I never had, and all the toys I would have given the boy who went away."
Perhaps Lincoln found some comfort in this, his favorite Christmas carol. We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. The war continued, and Mary Todd Lincoln volunteered to care for wounded Union soldiers in the D.C. hospitals. Lincoln took Tad with him to visit some of those same hospitals. And Tad asked Lincoln,
"Oh, Father, can I send socks or books to the soldiers? I feel so bad they can't be with their families on Christmas."
Of course, that was arranged, and Lincoln added every bottle of liquor that he received at the White House to the gifts for soldiers. Tad was definitely tender-hearted, and I think Lincoln and his cabinet, chuckled as he burst into their meeting on Christmas Day and yelled,
Father, they're gonna kill Jack! Can't you save him?"
Jack was the turkey to be served that evening for Christmas dinner. "Tad, he's pardoned, and Lincoln signed an official pardon for Jack with a flourish. The turkey pardon continues to this day, except now some lucky gobbler is pardoned every Thanksgiving. Despite the war, parents wanted to make Christmas special for their children, despite the fact that money and supplies were scarce.
But Mary Lincoln was quite irate when she read this letter from a Southern relative. Abraham, listen to this. Cousin Mary wrote, "We're telling our children that Santa won't be coming this year because the Yankees shot him." Well, Tad wasn't buying that piece of propaganda, and we're pretty sure that he was listening for the sound of Santa's reindeer on the roof as he lay in his bed at the White House.
Up on the housetop, reindeer paws.
Out jumps good old Santa Claus.
Down through the chimney with lots of toys.
All for the little ones' Christmas joys.
Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, click, click, click. Down through the chimney with good Saint Nick. Next comes a stocking of little Will.
Oh, just see what a glorious fill.
Here is a hammer and lots of tacks.
Also a ball and a whip that cracks.
Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, down through the chimney with good Saint Nick.
That's my big solo.
What do you think is the most popular gift that Santa has pulled out of his bag in the last 100 years? Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. It's soft and cuddly and is named after a president.
Well, Theodore Roosevelt was in Mississippi in 1901, helping to resolve a boundary dispute. And while he was there, he was invited on a bear hunt. But he never even saw a bear. And his aides, knowing what an avid hunter he was, they managed to capture a bear cub, which they tied to a tree. "Oh, Mr. President, come on out here and shoot this bear."
Jump in Jehoshaphat, shoot a baby bear tied to a tree. I'd as soon as turn that bear loose.
Well, a political cartoonist immortalized that story in a sketch in the Washington Post. And then in every cartoon he wrote about Teddy after that, he included a bear cub, and what do you think they called him? Teddy's Bear.
Morris Mitchum, a shopkeeper in New York, saw a great opportunity. He asked his wife, "Honey, can you make a toy bear that looks like the one in the cartoon?" Indeed, she could. They put it in the shop window. Hundreds of requests to purchase it poured in, and the rest is history.
Well, Teddy Roosevelt had two young sons, Archie and Quentin. Well, they knew what a conservationist their father was, and they really wanted to have a Christmas tree just like everyone else. So Archie had a great idea.
Quentin, I know where we can find a tree. No one will miss one if we chop one down way on the edge of the yard. And so they secretly chopped down an evergreen on the Christmas tree, on the White House grounds. Quentin, who was a little nervous, said,
"We're going to have to hide this." So they put it in a closet in the White House, and they got White House workers to help them decorate it with lights. And then on Christmas morning, as everyone opened up their gifts, Archie threw open the closet door, turned on the lights, and shouted,
"Surprise!" Well, Teddy Roosevelt was surprised, all right. He made the boys go with him the next day to see his Secretary of Conservation to see what he had to say about it.
And he was surprised again because his secretary said, "Oh, Mr. President, it's good to cut down trees that are too crowded. Now you boys can cut down a Christmas tree every year. Just check with your dad first."
Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are your branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are your branches. not only green in summer's heat, but also winter snow and sleet. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are your branches.
Well, 26 years after Theodore Roosevelt was president, there was another Roosevelt in the Oval Office. You remember who he was, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And FDR was a lot more like Archie and Quentin because he loved Christmas trees.
In fact, he owned a Christmas tree farm. I have a very carefully kept book on the subject of Christmas trees. It's called a checkbook. He never made much money in the operation, but he enjoyed doing it.
Well, FDR had been president for 8 years when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor December 7th, 1941, and we declared war. No one felt like celebrating that Christmas. But FDR decided that lighting the national tree on Christmas Eve, a tradition since 1923, was important to help encourage Americans and to restore their confidence.
Winston Churchill was visiting his new American allies to help them cope with the war that England had already been involved in for 2 years. As Roosevelt turned on the Christmas tree lights, Americans gathered around their radios from coast to coast and heard Roosevelt say, "It is for those who serve and endure for us, our armed forces, that we light our candles now across the continent. And now my old and good friend would like to speak with you."
This is a strange Christmas Eve. Almost the whole world is locked in a deadly struggle. But here, in the midst of war, we may cast aside the dangers that beset us for this night and make for our children an evening of happiness. Let us resolve that these same children not be robbed of their right to live in a free and decent world. And so, in God's mercy, a happy Christmas to you all. The next morning, Christmas Day, Churchill accompanied the Roosevelts to a nearby church. The choir sang, "O Little Town of Bethlehem," and Churchill had never heard that carol before. And he listened to the line, "Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light." And the carol became a favorite of his because of the hope it offered in that dark and fearful time.
O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in the dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary and gathered all above. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wandering love. O morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. Another family arrived in the White House exactly 100 years after the Lincolns, the Kennedys. Even though Jackie Kennedy lived in the White House only 2 years, she made a lasting impression on how Christmas is celebrated at the White House to this very day. She was the first First Lady to come up with a theme for the decorations for the White House.
And for her first year in the White House, she chose the Nutcracker theme. Now, in the past, the White House had boasted 2 trees. Jackie made it 11. And the Christmas card that year captivated the nation. It's a picture of Jackie, Caroline, and Little John in a sleigh being pulled across the White House grounds by Caroline's pony, Macaroni.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, let's go. Let's look at the show.
We're riding in a wonderland of snow.
Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, it's grand, just holding your hand.
We're gliding along with the song of a wintry fairyland.
Our cheeks are nice and rosy and comfy, cozy are we. We're snuggled up together like 2 birds of a feather would be. Let's take the road before us and sing a chorus or 2. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you.
There's a birthday party at the home of Farmer Gray.
It'll be the perfect ending of a perfect day. We'll be singing the songs we love to sing without a single stop.
At the fireplace while we watch the chestnuts pop.
Pop, pop, pop.
There's a happy feeling nothing in the world can buy.
When they pass around the coffee and the pumpkin pie,
It'll nearly be like a picture print by Currier and Ives. These wonderful things are the things we remember all through our lives.
just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. You, come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. With you. With you.
Well, probably the most excited person at the White House while the tree was being decorated with ornaments from the Nutcracker was 4-year-old Caroline. And of course, she kept trying to sneak into the room to see the tree before it was finished. One afternoon, Jack Kennedy was coming by just as Caroline was about to open the door to the Blue Room.
Caroline, I need your help in the Oval Office.
And he swept her up in his arms and took her off. But I think my favorite story, well, one of the many stories of the Kennedy years, was when Jack Kennedy helped Caroline call Santa Claus via the White House switchboard. And Caroline confessed years later that it never occurred to her that Santa Claus had a southern drawl, just like the switchboard operator.
One of Jack Kennedy's favorite Christmas songs was Silver Bells. But, the songwriters initially called it Tinkle Bells.
Really? Tinkle bells?
Exactly. Christmas makes you feel emotional.
It may bring parties or thoughts devotional.
Whatever happens or what may be, here is what Christmas time means to me. City sidewalks, busy sidewalks, dressed in holiday style. In the air, there's a feeling of Christmas.
Children laughing, people passing, meeting smile after smile, and on every street corner you hear
Silver bells,
bum, bum, bum,
silver bells,
bum, bum, bum.
it's Christmas ring-a-ling. Hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Strings of street lights, even stoplights, blink a bright red and green as the shoppers rush home with their treasures. Hear the snow crunch, see the kids bunch. This is Santa's big scene. And above all this bustle, you hear silver bells, ding, ding, ding. Silver bells, ding, ding, ding. It's Christmas time in the city. Ding, ding, ding. Ring-a-ling, tinkle bells. Hear them ring, ding, ding, dong. Soon it will be Christmas Day.
Well, although Jackie Kennedy was the first to come up with the idea of having a theme at Christmas time, Pat Nixon is credited with making the most innovations at the White House.
I know the White House, which I'm going to call the People's House from now on, is the most visited house in the world, and I want it to be accessible to everyone.
So Pat Nixon was the first to arrange tours for visually and hearing impaired guests. And she insisted to the guards.
Please don't touch that from your vocabulary. I want you to invite blind visitors to touch the decorations.
She also asked Mr. Nixon if he would approve of holding evening candlelight tours.
Richard, so many day workers and diplomats never get to see the White House decorated for Christmas. Let's have some tours in the evening.
And to this day, the evening tours are a big hit. According to Mrs. Nixon,
the more the better is what I say.
now, Mr. Nixon loved Christmas trees, and he was once quoted as saying, "May your Christmas tree be as sturdy as faith, as high as hope, and as wide as love. And may I add, may your Christmas tree be as beautiful as peace." Now, Mr. Nixon also loved the carol, "The Little Drummer Boy," one of our favorites as well.
Another First Lady who shared Pat Nixon's folksy approach was, surprisingly, Nancy Reagan. Although people think of her as glamorous and sophisticated, which she is, she wanted to emphasize a simpler Christmas at the White House.
Well, Ronnie and I, we just love a traditional, old-fashioned Christmas. Balls and big bands are out, choirs and minstrels are in. Good fellowship will be more important than opulence.
One of their favorite traditions was getting the White House chefs to bake them a gingerbread house.
Oh, with lots of jelly beans for Ronnie! Now, you might recall that Mrs. Reagan loved to wear the color. Oh, you're good. And I was just thinking, oh, but you're already thinking what I'm thinking. Okay, perfect. Let's do it.
You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all?
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose,
Like a light bulb,
and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows.
like a flashlight.
All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names.
Like Pinocchio,
They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games.
like Monopoly.
Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him, as they shouted out with glee.
Oh, yippee!
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.
Like Columbus.
Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him, as they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.
Love that red nose.
Another favorite tradition at the White House was choosing the official Christmas tree.
Now, where does the president get that giant tree from anyway? Not everyone has a tree farm like FDR, right?
Well, there is a tradition, and at least since 1966, there's a contest to determine who gets to contribute the official tree. North Carolina has won it the most. And starting in the Johnson years, it became custom to deliver the tree to the First Lady by horse-drawn carriage. When Barbara Bush was to receive the tree in 1989, she took Millie with her, her English Springer Spaniel. Millie became quite nervous as those giant Clydesdales entered the portico. She had to pick Millie up, and she was heard muttering, "Millie cannot steal this show."
Well, for Barbara Bush's first year in the White House, she chose a theme near and dear to my heart, storybook characters. And she held a party at the White House for homeless children. Of course, she read storybooks aloud to them. And at the end, all the kids left. They were carrying gift bags full of candy and books, and Mrs. Bush acknowledged,
There's sort of a little message in our Christmas, a family-oriented, reading to your child Christmas.
Now, for her second year in the White House, Barbara Bush brought back Jackie Kennedy's Nutcracker theme. And the ornaments on the tree that year, there were lots of handcrafted fairies and dolls and angels. Oh, and Mrs. Bush was heard to comment,
There are several white-haired fat ones wearing pearls.
Now, Mr. Bush had his own traditions. He kept a Christmas tree in the Oval Office loaded with gingerbread cookies. Did you know that he loved gingerbread cookies? And anytime anybody would come in, he passed them out liberally. Probably the only time you'll hear that word associated with Mr. Bush. You know, I like the jazz feel. I like how you are jazzing up angels we have heard on high. Why, I can almost hear Bill Clinton playing his saxophone about now.
Speaking of which, that was the theme that Hillary Clinton chose for her for Christmas at the White House. I would have liked to have seen some of those ornaments. I hear that one of the ornaments was Bill Clinton with wings, sporting a halo, and jamming on a saxophone.
Probably one of the few times Bill Clinton's been seen as an angel.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. Deo.
Well, there was another decoration on the tree that I particularly like because I'm an animal lover. And you remember Chelsea had a cat named Socks. And so Socks was a voluptuous Mae West angel ornament on the tree. But the chefs, everybody at the White House loved Socks, especially the chefs. And so they decided that year to create all kinds of different poses of Socks made out of marzipan on the gingerbread house. And one of them is Socks is on top of the house in Santa's sleigh, holding on to the reins while Santa's calling Bill Clinton on his cell phone. And the first dog, Buddy, he got into big trouble for going after that gingerbread house. But can you blame him?
The Clintons got to celebrate 8 Christmases at the White House. And no doubt Hillary chose some of the themes with daughter Chelsea in mind. The 12 Days of Christmas, Santa's Workshop, and again, the Nutcracker.
And the Clintons were always very inclusive of other religions.
That's right. During Hanukkah, they would have a menorah in the stateroom, and they would celebrate the end of Ramadan with Muslim friends. And Mrs. Clinton wrote,
Well, this house and its history belong to all Americans, and we have worked hard to share this national treasure with as many people as possible. Not just politicians, dignitaries, and the rich and famous, but Americans from every walk of life.
150,000 visitors went through the White House every year during the Clinton years.
Now, in 2001, another Bush took residence. Of course, George W. and Laura.
Do you know what the date is tomorrow, Mrs. Bush?
Why, yes, Miss Social Secretary. I've already got my green outfit laid out for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas,
Already?
even though it's March.
Oh.
You've got to plan the theme, the tree, the gingerbread house, the menu, the music.
Stop. I cannot hear another word about Christmas.
You could always ask your mother-in-law for some help.
As if. So, Laura Bush, like so many other first ladies, was pretty surprised when St. Patrick's Day rolled around and they had to choose the Christmas theme. That year, Laura Bush chose Home for the Holidays. No one could know then how poignant that theme would be after the devastation of 9/11, when so many people wouldn't be home for the holidays.
9/11 would change how Christmas was celebrated at the White House, maybe forever. President and Mrs. Bush wrote in their season's greeting letter,
Our hearts go out to those who will be missing loved ones this year, and we pray that the beauty, the miracle of the holidays will bring comfort and hope to us all.
how often tragedies have impacted the celebration of the Christmas season at the White House.
The bombing of Pearl Harbor,
The assassination of John F. Kennedy.
9/11.
And this year, the typhoon in the Philippines and the tornadoes that destroyed our own Washington, Illinois.
I don't know, it seemed like when we were kids that everything was simpler. And all we had to think about was what to put on our Christmas list to Santa. And now that we're adults, how that list has changed. Do you remember me? I sat upon your knee. I wrote to you with childhood fantasies. Well, I'm all grown up now. Can you still help somehow? I'm not a child, but my heart still can dream.
So here's my lifelong wish, my grown-up Christmas list. Not for myself, but for a world in need.
No more lives torn apart,
And wars would never start,
and time would heal all hearts. Everyone would have a friend.
that right would always win, and love would never end. This is my grown-up Christmas list. What is this illusion called? The innocence of you.
Maybe only in a blind belief can we ever find the truth. No more lives torn apart,
And wars would never start, and time would heal all hearts.
everyone would have a friend.
And right would always win, and love would never end. This is my grown-up Christmas list.
This is my only lifelong wish.
This is my grown-up Christmas list.
There were no tours of the White House that year, nor the next. Oh, wait, there was one tour. The Bush's Terrier Barney was equipped with a little camera which they attached to his collar. And he was taken around the White House, so viewers got a virtual tour of the Christmas decorations.
There were 24 million viewers of that 4.5-minute tape the day it was launched. If it had been put out on YouTube now, it definitely would have gone viral. And surprisingly, well, fittingly, the theme of that Christmas was all creatures, great and small.
So, how do you think the current residents, the Obamas, have impacted Christmas at the White House?
Well, I know Michelle is something of a health nut, so I bet she got rid of that gingerbread house, right?
Wrong. Does anybody really eat the gingerbread house? It gets so dry. And
Well, then why do they have two Marines guarding it? Don't you remember that diplomat's daughter that broke off a piece of the Nixon gingerbread house and popped it in her mouth before anyone could stop her?
oh, right, and someone broke off the whole chimney from the Carter's gingerbread house. That's when the Marines were brought in. But the Obamas have kept the tradition. And theirs was beautiful. It's the White House in cookie form with Michelle's vegetable garden made out of marzipan.
What a great way to get your veggies in sugar form.
But I think the most important thing that the Obamas have done is to emphasize environmental concerns. A beautiful theme
Putting up 26 trees doesn't seem to me that environmentally friendly.
Oh, well, let me just remind you that the trees are grown especially for the White House. And then they're all mulched and used on the White House grounds. And I love to think of the Obamas sitting around one of those trees on Christmas Day.
Jen?
Oh, I know, a tree with energy-efficient LED lights decorated with ornaments from past presidents. What?
The Obamas have a tradition of spending Christmas in Hawaii.
Oh.
How'd you like to spend Christmas on Christmas Island?
Ooh.
How'd you like to spend a holiday away across the sea?
Ooh.
How'd you like to spend Christmas on Christmas Island? How'd you like to hang your stockings on a great big coconut tree?
Ooh.
How'd you like to stay up late like the islanders do?
Ooh.
Wait for Santa to sail in with your presents in a canoe.
Ooh.
If you ever spend Christmas on Christmas Island, you will never stray, for every day your Christmas dreams come true.
Now, before the Obamas leave for Hawaii, that there is always a sing-along or two at the White House. So, are you ready to join us in, I hate to do this song, but let's sing Let It Snow.
Yeah, we don't want to summon any weather change, but, okay. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Oh, it doesn't show signs of stopping, but I brought some corn for popping.
The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
All right, but back to the Obamas for just one moment, okay? When obviously the girls love Christmas, and when asked by the press about all of the 26 trees, Sasha told them,
We do have a new tree. It's made out of cardboard.
see, totally recyclable.
You write down a wish, you roll it up on the paper, and stick it in a hole in the cardboard tree and hope your wish comes true.
Well, President President Obama, expressed a wish for his daughters. And he wrote on one of those little things that he stuck in the tree, I want you to grow up in a world with no limits on your dreams, with no achievements beyond your reaching. I want you to grow up to be committed, compassionate adults who will build that world. I think that would be an excellent wish for any of us to make, don't you think, for all of the children of the world. Hey, Elizabeth, did you send a blurb about our show to the Obamas?
Unfortunately, I didn't think of that.
Oh, that's too bad. You know, their theme this year is Gather Around. And it is the idea that people will come together to share the stories behind their Christmas traditions. Hey, isn't that our theme?
Definitely. Look at all the traditions we've talked about. Yule logs, gingerbread houses, Christmas trees. And you know what strikes me as really important, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Ramadan, is
that the holidays inspire us. And it's not just because of food and entertainment and presents, but it's because we are celebrating with the people we love. And the spirit of the holiday season reminds us that
hope is still alive in the world,
that we want to create for all the people of the world.
Peace on earth, goodwill to all.
Here is our Christmas wish for you.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more.
Once more. Through the years we all will be together,
if the fates allow.
hang a shining star upon the highest bough, the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas. Have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Oh, there's no place like the White House for the holidays, for no matter which first family sets the tone, every guest will feel the warmth and love of Christmas time. For the White House is the people's home, sweet home.
Well, before you go on your way, we would love for you to join us. We have a lot of cookies and punch and coffee. We've got wonderful books for sale. This the show was inspired in part by a book called Christmas at the White House. I I didn't know there was a book out there called Christmas at the White House, but I found one, and it's absolutely stunning with beautiful pictures and interesting stories from the Kennedys forward. But I also have to give a very special thank you to my mom, Madge Cloud, who was the primary script writer for this show. We all collaborated and worked together, but good old Madge, she put it all together. So stand up, Mom. Stand up.
Stand up.
And you can imagine taking all that information and putting it into a form that we could actually work with was quite a feat. So it was great to see everybody tonight, and we look forward to sharing a cookie with you out in the Welcome Center. Thanks for coming.